Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to thegolfdirector.com. I have two people with me here this morning. I'd like to go ahead and say good morning to.
Good morning.
HR3 and the Godfather.
What an intro. What'd you think?
That's pretty impressive.
I know.
Well, thank you.
Wow.
All right.
Chris
You need to
must
do
have
this more often.
Chris must have written that up for him
Man,
last
you
night.
can't beat a deal like
Yeah.
that.
There's pictures, though.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guarantee you
Oh,
there's
there's
pictures.
Heck yeah. So today we have a very special guest. We're getting him on the phone right now, Tad Moore. So
Who is Tad Moore?
Who is Tad Moore? He's a very interesting individual. He is the hickory guru when it comes to hickory shafts.
Oh, you're not just talking trees.
That's right.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, hickory shafted golf clubs.
I was wondering where we were going. This is a golf show, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. And so he's just a super guy, and he's one of those guys that is definitely carved his little niche in the golf world. So I looking very much forward to talking to him.
Well, I mean, hickory shafts is kind of not a niche or a new thing, but it's just returning back to our roots.
That's correct.
For the game.
That's correct.
And it's amazing how that's taken over and kind of popularity in the last year. It's really got going pretty big. So
Well, one of our brethren, Mitch Lawrence, has often come into the Performance Center and brought his hickory clubs with him.
Yes.
And then the last time he came in, I said, "Now, Mitch, you can't come in to the Performance Center and hit a modern ball with those hickory clubs and expect to get, even reasonable feel, much less numbers."
Yeah.
So last time he came in, he brought his own balls. And
Neat.
so, yeah.
Neat.
So, and it's amazing the feel difference, because he let me hit one of his clubs, which I took great pride in. And because normally Mitch doesn't let you touch nothing of his, especially his wife.
That's right.
And
I wouldn't be so afraid of Mitch as she would be.
oh
the one
yeah,
that would be.
no kidding. But it's amazing the difference in feel between the quote unquote legendary balls, the way they're constructed today,
Yes.
and of years past, and with those hickory clubs. It's phenomenal the way you're sitting here nutting the equivalent of a 5-iron, and Mitch explained to me and educated me that if you get 130 yards out of it, you're doing good.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
That's exactly right.
When you got to literally play it's almost the senior tees, if not a set of tees above, the ladies' tees when you play hickory clubs, just because, you don't hit them very far.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, there's golf courses set up in many places. Most of them, I would imagine, kind of got founded back in Europe, toward the home of golf, like St. Andrews, places like that. But I know that up at Pinehurst, there's hickory.
they have a couple of tournaments a year. I know that Mitch has gone up there, and Tad's gone to them too, where they they go up there and have a.
Yeah, Tad's at all kind of conventions and things like that. Now, actually, you can find Mr. Moore at www.tadmoore.com, Tad Moore Golf, and it's custom-made clubs, putters, things of that sort. Al, what? Now, interestingly, a hickory shafted putter.
Yes, sir.
How's that going to feel?
I tell you, they feel pretty darn good. The hickory does have some absorption factors that steel doesn't have, and actually some of these old hickory shafted putters are really sweet. Just to putt with. It's different. It's the roots, it's the heritage. Of the game. So it kind of brings you back to it makes you appreciate the modern equipment. That's for sure.
Right,
Of
right.
how much technology, how far we've advanced this equipment through the years.
But we look, like Hugh and I get together and we test out putters and things like that, either through that you've manufactured or whatever. But I would imagine a hickory shafted putter would have that soft feel and roll that we'd be looking for. So I think we got Mr. Moore on the air with us.
yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Man, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much. We look forward to talking to you this morning.
Yeah, well, great. Yeah.
Definitely.
Talking about hickory putter.
Yeah, we were just wondering, if ours was in the mail or not.
There
So,
you go. You can't beat it.
Yeah, there you go.
So what's going on in your world right now?
Well, of course, right now I'm getting prepared to go play in the Mid Pines Hickory Open, and that'll take the whole first week of November up, and but it'll be a lot of fun for sure.
Excellent.
and our good
Excellent.
friend Mitch Lawrence will, of course, be there, won't he?
Well, I think Mitch has had something come up, and this is the first year that he won't be there in a long
Uh-oh.
time. But he has always been a regular. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Wow.
Yep.
How's your recovery going from your surgery, Tad? Your hand.
Everything's going okay. When you have issues, you never know. So
Yeah.
yeah. I had I just gotten problems with the trigger finger, and I couldn't get my hands to open up once I closed my right hand, and so I had to have 3 fingers surgically worked on, and it knocked me out pretty good for a while from doing anything hardly at all. I mean, I had to learn how to put grips on left-handed and all that sort of thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
it's a good thing you can still learn. That's good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Glad it's getting better. It's good to hear.
Awesome. You see, we were talking yesterday, and if I understand, is it South Carolina or North Carolina that has between 700 and 800 individuals that's doing the hickory stuff?
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Quite a few, and it's spread out, all through the Carolinas. But it's a big group of people, and the event at Mid Pines is really as many as they can get in, and still finish with daylight. So it runs around. This year I think the daylight change will cut the field back to around 80, 90 players. So but we have had up to 110.
Okay. I was talking with a gentleman yesterday, about hickory and not being that familiar with it. How do you guys go and adjust yardage, according to the balls that you're using and the equipment that you're using? That was just a question that popped up.
Well, I think the thing is in irons, if we talk loft for loft, so if we're hitting a modern iron with a, say, 36-degree loft, and we're hitting a hickory iron with 36 degrees loft, you're going to hit them almost the same distance. Very little difference.
Interesting.
It may sound strange, but an iron shaft is probably, in hickory, is going to be 150 to 160 grams. And, of course, a steel shaft is, 100 to 120. A graphite's lighter than that, but you can, a player with some, physical ability can swing the two clubs pretty close to the same. So you're going to get about the same distance. But in the driver is only 43 inches long, and the shaft is going to be 180 to 200 grams, so you can't swing it as fast. So you're going to lose 10, 15%. So as a rule of thumb, senior players play about 56, 5,700, and the other players, more like the open division, will play around 61, 63 at the most. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, that was an awesome answer. That's exactly what we were wanting to know. And as far as the balls, what kind of balls are you guys using right now?
Well, the Society Hickory Golfers rules state that you can use any USGA-approved ball. Plus, we have 2 companies that make retro-looking golf balls, and those are also available for play. Because of the dimple or square mesh looking covers, their coefficient of drag is higher, and so you lose a little distance with either one of those. But there's a lot of guys that play with, for example, with just the replica kind of ball.
Okay.
What compression those balls normally run, Tad?
I suggest to everybody to play a little softer ball,
Right.
because I think the persimmon woods like that a little better.
Yeah.
They feel a little better. Everything from a NXT Tour to a Srixon Soft Feel to a Bridgestone E6 to a Callaway
Super soft.
chrome
Yeah.
soft or
Yeah. Super soft. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's funny because, it's like taking, Daddy's old power built or my Wood Brothers from back in the day, and, you take them and hit these new balls. I mean, you can't get them in the air. So, I mean, it's got to be something that's got to be soft like that to help you get the spin rate to get that ball in the air.
Stays on the face a little longer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we're playing a little more loft too, Hugh. We're playing anywhere from 10 to 13 degrees of loft, probably in a driving club.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That makes a big difference. And also, one thing we can do with hickory that you can't do with a lot of modern stuff is we can actually, because we make our own shafts, we make thousands of shafts every year. We can dial that flex point, that kick point, the softness of the tip, just in how we turn the shaft and how we sand it. So,
man, that's wild. I didn't even have a clue that you could do that with wood.
Yeah.
Yep. Do that. And
That's interesting. I mean, we use a lot of people that are listening probably can remember the days of the old Kenneth Smith deflection board where you would stick the butt of the club in and hang a 7-pound weight out toward the end. And
I've got
see
two
how
of
it
them.
Bent.
Yep.
So we use that along with a modern frequency. And so we can do a lot of tailoring of the shaft. And I'm 74, and I in my hickory, I like to have it a little bit, not necessarily totally R, but I like kind of an RS, but I also like a little tip feel. So I have a lot of fun working my shafts to get me that.
Man, that sounds like so much fun. I mean, do you work them on a lathe?
They're turned on a lathe.
Yes, sir.
And then we have a sanding process that we can then sand the shaft after that.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yep.
Man, I'd love to come up one day and have a look at that. I'm very intrigued by that.
Well, if you ever need anybody to do some whipping for you, I still remember how to do that. Daddy made me do enough of that growing up, so I still got that talent.
Yep, I can whip too. Every blue moon, maybe once or twice a year, somebody will stick their head in the door at the shop with a club that needs whipped.
Yeah,
definitely.
We use a pitched linen material that actually comes from, I think it comes from Ireland. There's two places to get it. One of them is in Ireland. It's really hard to get anymore because
yes,
I think about the only people that use it are these people that make the wax cotton clothing, and so we end up having to get it from them. So it's a whole different thing, And
yes, sir.
There's a lot of makers of waxed material, but I'm not big for the wax material. So
I'm with you. Cool. Well, but, going back in before that, when you started Tadmore, golf, and kind of went in the the line of pro line stuff and dealing with a lot of touring pros. Is there any neat stories or anything you'd like to kindly pass on from that era?
Oh, I think, I like to think back of in all honesty, of the 90s is probably one of the greatest eras of shot makers in golf. And
yes,
I was fortunate that I worked in that era. And, with the MaxFly contract, which started in the late 80s and then went on up into the late '90s. I worked with a lot of players, and we had 70, almost 80 players using one of my milled putters every week around the world. Nobody getting paid to use one. Guys played for the most part what they wanted to play with. I mean, some people had some contracts, but they weren't like they are now.
Yes, sir.
And the balls, I think, allowed for a game that was much different than what we see today. And I like to think of, I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and I said, how many times do you see a player today hit a leaner? He said, what's a leaner? And I said, well, a leaner is when you hit it in there and it's almost a gimme. I said, you don't see that very often. And I said, in the days of the Balata balls, I said, you saw that a lot because they could shape the ball a lot more. And if you think about it, I mean,
You're right.
Hugh knows Alan Doyle, for instance, very well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about Alan Doyle, he hit every shot with a draw, and every shot would land just short of the hole to the right and was working towards the cup. And so for the most part, he always had a right to left putt. He was very, very consistent in all that. Hugh's shot was a very consistent shot that gave you ability to get the ball real close. A friend of mine that Blaine McAllister, who was a great ball striker, his shot typically was a straight shot, but it fell to the right. I mean, all these things that you could do with the old ball. I'm not talking about clubs. I'm just talking about the ball. Were so different back then.
I think the ball nowadays, Tad, I mean, it comes off so fast and with, so much less spin than what it used to. It's almost like a self-correcting ball. I always call it the Polara. You remember the old Polara ball. I mean, it'd just go out and it'd start to cut, and then it would fall back, or it'd start to hook. And that's kind of the way these modern balls have gone. And that I think that's, with what you're talking about, that's the reason why. I mean, the balls come off so much faster, and they never get a chance to really develop that spin right to left or left to right.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think what we have now is it's whoever is the best 20-foot putter.
Yes, sir.
The guy that's out there every week tearing it up.
That's actually proven. That's been proven this year.
Yep, we've talked about that
Jordan
quite a
Spieth's
lot.
Done that better than anybody. So.
Yep.
Yep.
Man, that's awesome.
Putters have changed, but in all honesty, I think you have to have doesn't make, in my mind, it isn't so much about weight, it isn't so much about a lot of things, but it's about what looks good and will put a good roll on the ball,
right,
and what you can control your distance on. Because again, now we're talking about distance control is really important.
Big time.
That's true for not only the professional, but it's true for the average guy. If he can go out and play on the big greens that you play on, say there in Myrtle Beach, and he can roll it all the time up there, 2 feet, 2.5 feet, he's going to have very few three putts. He's going to have a really good round. But if he can't control his distance, he's not going to make very many putts, and he's certainly going to have a lot of three putts. So, that's the biggest thing.
And look at it this way, Tad. I mean, you're seeing some of them out on tour, and George Putts is the one. I call them the brake pads. I mean, they're like, if the brakes go out on your car, you can just pull the head off the shaft and put it on your car to help it stop. But
you're funny.
But a lot of these putters are going back to what you originally used to do. Where you hand did them. And then obviously maybe a little sort of subject, but what Scotty did, now what Lamont Mann's doing, and some others where they're making the hand milled, what TP Mills did, that kind of thing, and doing those models. And going back to the answer looks and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the Wilsons, the Bullseyes.
They're starting to come back around, and it's just kind of ironic how everything goes full circle. They come out with all this new stuff, and then all of a sudden, the other old stuff starts making its way back into the, into the fold.
That's very true. Very true. In fact, I do a lot of work with Sandy Lyle and Ian Woosnam. In fact, Sandy putted up until just the last event or two. He putted for almost 2 years with a hickory shaft putter. And people say, well, man, that's got to have a lot of torque and a lot of this and a lot of that. Well, let me tell you, if you're feeling torque in a hickory shafted putter that I make, you got to be hitting an 1.5 inches or 2 inches away from the sweet spot.
Right.
Right. I'm with you.
I mean, there's no torque there, but what there is a feel that is entirely different than what you get in a steel shafted putter.
Right.
And that's what he liked. He liked that feel that he was getting from the putter, the feedback, and that sort of thing. And
well, that's what I was mentioning, Mr. Moore. It's George Honeycutt. I was mentioning to Al before you got on the air with us. I'm a soft hand putter. I pride myself in, not gripping heavily onto the putter head shaft, and I'm very soft hands. I use a conventional size grip, and my point is I just see it as, technology wise, I see as a hickory shaft being a very soft putter. It just has to be. You would think in theory that it would be just a softer putter. Would you agree?
Feel wise, I think is what he's getting at.
Yeah.
It could be, it could very well be what you would say is a softer feel. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get a lot of transmission up through the hands now. I think that people miss the boat when they start using grips that, in effect, are deadening the feel.
Yes, sir. Yep.
From what I remember, years ago, I had friends that would almost always, just take the grip off and put something, Gostex or something around it, so they could, because they were mishitting their putts and they were trying to find out where it was at.
Yes, sir.
In hickory golf, for the most part, we're using a leather hand-wrapped grip on top. So you're getting as much feel and transmission up through the shaft to your hands, not through your ears. You're getting it through your hands. So
Interesting.
A lot of what people think is feel is sound.
Yes.
In the case of a hickory golf club, you're getting it through your hands more.
Awesome.
Great point. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There's an interesting story. If we got just a minute.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Again, when I was out on the tour in the 90s, I did some work with David Graham. David, not only a great golf club designer and a great player, but he was a brilliant guy in what actually made a golf club work. And our friend Danny Edwards was coming out with his new slip-on rubber grip and so a lot of guys were trying it. Well, David felt that he didn't get the feel from that grip, so is cut the butt end of the grip off, and I would slip the rubber grip on, but in the end of the steel shaft, I would put in the old days, there were plastic caps.
Yes, sir.
Used with leather grips and that.
That's correct.
And I put the plastic cap on the end of the shaft and up against the grip.
Yes, sir.
And lock it in place. And he felt that he could feel the shaft then coming up through the end of the shaft and through that into that rubber grip, and he could feel it better. He could feel the miss hits. He could feel everything better. How about that for feel?
That's one way to do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty amazing.
We all had our different weird things about grips back in the days, too.
Yeah.
I always cut mine off at the bottom, and everybody's like, why? And I'm like, better feel. You can feel the shaft more. Everybody's different, but it's it's pretty interesting to hear those stories and all that. And it's, Lord knows, we probably got a ton of them to tell about a bunch of folks back in the days.
Yeah. I got the opportunity to talk to Lamont last night, and I let him know that you were going to be on the show today. And I think he thought you were actually physically going to be here because he's like, give him a big bear hug for me. So, but he contributes a lot of his success to you. That you have helped him, a lot through the years to get to where he's at now.
Well, I think that Lamont is a very gifted maker of putters, and there's very few people that can take a piece of steel and turn it into something that's a really good golf club.
Well said.
Yes, sir.
There's people that can sit there on a computer and digitize another putter, and then bring it into your screen and fiddle with it, and then throw it up into the CNC, and all of a sudden you got a putter. That's not being a designer; that's being a copier.
Yes.
But Lamont actually, like I did in the old days, you're sitting there with a milling machine and a grinder and things, and you're wonder what that's going to look like. And you make some mistakes, but you also make some pretty stuff that's pretty cool. And
Right.
Yes,
I'm really proud of him, and I'm glad that he has been fortunate enough to be able to stick with it and start doing some really nice, beautiful things.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I'd tell you, as far as just a hard worker, and just a knuckle busting kind of guy. That's how I feel about Lamont.
And a lover of the game.
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
He is.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
He's just one of those. He's talented with the feel of his hands and how he does it when he gets that that piece of steel in his hand.
And this is kind of speak to a little bit about what he just spoke about is like Lamont had the gentleman he had doing his milling has moved, so he's in search of a new miller. So he was making 3 putter heads that he was working on, and he had them on the machine down there, and he had actually got the first rough shape out. And he had done it without a milling machine, without a CP, without a milling machine.
That's
He
right.
did it with a drill press and old school.
Right.
So it's really neat. It's fun to watch these guys because it inspires you. It gives you a little bit of wind under your wings to push yourself a little bit harder.
I mean, they're the innovators. That's why.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the first time I made a Ping style plumber neck, it took me about 12 hours to make it because I had to figure out how to do it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Right.
sir.
Oh,
Awesome.
it's doing it the way Lamont trying to do it, and a lot of things, and what I did. I think that's why I enjoy him so much is because, and he's not afraid to ask and that sort of thing, and I mean, a lot of things you can only learn by doing it, and I remember doing those in the old days in the 70s and that sort of thing, and you're trying to figure out how to do it. Well, the only way is to stick a piece of metal in there and try, so.
That's it. That's it.
I was fortunate that I was able to, I had a company I worked for that had the equipment, and then when I moved to Georgia, down to LaGrange, I was able to also had a friend there that had a machine shop, and I could go over there and after hours and work to my heart's content. So,
man, that's awesome.
You gotta make them. There aren't very many people that can do what we do. So,
Right.
Definitely.
it's fun.
Well, I tell you, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed having you on the show today, and we would definitely love to have you back because I still feel there's a lot of stuff that we to talk about that we didn't even scratch the surface.
We really need to get in this hickory stuff more.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we'll have to do that. We'll have to one of these trips, like this trip I'm going to take over to Mid Pines. One of these times when I come that way, we'll just have to keep on coming across.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
From the Mexican Mad Hatter. They're on 95. And
Yeah,
keep on
There you
coming
go.
over.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to come back
Pedro's.
down. I've got to
Yeah.
come back down to Columbus anyway with some stuff with Daddy's estate too. So I'll try to slip into LaGrange and say hey and see what's going on.
Yeah, let me know because I'm only a couple hours away, Hugh. So
Sounds
Cool.
good.
Yeah.
Super
we can
cool.
hook up. Yep.
Well, thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you so very, very, very much for coming on the show. I can't tell you how much, we really appreciated it.
Well, I'm glad to be on and good to talk with y'all, and we'll do it again.
That
Thank you,
sounds
Mr.
great.
Moore.
Take care, Tad.
Take care.
All
Yes,
right.
sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Mr. Tad Moore. Of course, that's tadmoore.com, TADMOORE. You can find his wedges, his putters, and then also his hickory clubs.
His modern stuff and his hickory stuff, I mean, they're all good. So you'll find some quality stuff there.
Whole gambit, all of it handmade.
Yep.
We've heard about it.
Yep.
I'm going to get me a hickory putter. We're done.
You think Squeaky can get it out of his pocket to pay for one?
No.
Because they don't come
TGD Radio.
free.
Hi, I'm doing the readout. TGD Radio and TV are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting the Golf Director, be sure to check out our featured course pages where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much more. Need help with your next golf vacation? Just call Dave right here at TGD. You can give us a call at 844-GO-GOLF-1, 844-464-6531. All of our programming is archived for listening and viewing on demand. If you want to re-air or catch up on Mr. Moore's presentation here at Tech Talk with Al Cloyd, you can do that by just clicking on the TGD Radio or the TGD TV tabs in the menu screen at thegolfdirector.com. We are now available on over 1 billion devices at iTunes, Audio Realm, TuneIn, YouTube, Ustream, Roku, Periscope, Catch.me.com, and, of course, Blueberry and the Myrtle Beach Golf app. For Al Cloyd, Tech Talk with Al Cloyd, HR and I have just been along for the ride, and we love him for it. We want to thank Jeff behind the glass. We want to thank you for viewing and listening to us. There's a lot more golf news and information coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Please come back. Come back.
That's right.